It's episode 654 of the Locked On Rangers podcast. On today's show, the Rangers rallied behind a pigeon to win a series against the Mariners, and Ian Kinsler is finally a Rangers Hall of Famer. All that and more on this episode of Locked On Rangers. Let's get into it.
You are Locked On Rangers, your daily Texas Rangers podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
You are Locked On to the Texas Rangers. I'm Bryce Patrick, a cripplingly addicted Texas Rangers fan since 2010, founder and host for all 4 seasons of this Locked On Rangers podcast. Today is Monday, August 15th. Your Rangers are 51-63. That's right. They have finally won 50 games. Thank y'all so much for making Locked On Rangers your first listen every single day. If you're not already, you can follow me on Twitter at Bryce Patrick. You can follow the show at Locked On Rangers and subscribe on YouTube, where the best way you can help grow the show is to comment any single thing below. Now, the Rangers have a rally pigeon named Jeff. He is now the official mascot of the Rangers. This must be changed immediately because of a 2-game winning streak where Jeff, the rally pigeon, as he was named by Levi Weaver of The Athletic when he was present. The Rangers had it felt like massive. Even though they weren't really massive, they felt like massive wins against this Mariners squad that has had their number for the entire season. They finally got 2 wins together. Before that, they'd had 2 wins against the Mariners all season. Right now, they are finally, let's see, where do we go? 4-12. Yeah, 4-12 against the Mariners team this year. That has been one of the huge differences in what their record says they should be and what they actually are. They're 4-10 against the Astros, the 2 teams that they have played the most at this point, and it has not been particularly close in either of those series. I mean, the Rangers have had some close games with both of them, but they just have not been able to get it over the hump in those close games. In those one-run games, they have the abysmal record. But even in the close games where they make it look like they're fighting and they might have a little chance. But no, it has not been the case for the Rangers against the 2 best teams in their division. They've been able to handle the A's and the Angels below them in the division, but against the top of this division, they have just been absolutely clobbered. And so these 2 wins this weekend were massive, and they started behind a rally pigeon. Before we get to that, we got to get into the first game of the series. The only one they lost, the Rangers actually in this one, they were in all the games in the series. They ended up winning 2 of them, but the only game that they lost was a bullpen game because Spencer Howard went on the IL with a right shoulder impingement earlier in the week, and it was started by Josh Sborz, who, by the way, Josh Sborz has been fantastic. He had a much better outing than the first outing that he had this weekend. Again, if you count Friday as the weekend, I'm counting it as the weekend. But he had 1 shutout inning to start this game. And Taylor Hearn, we've seen time and time again when he's in those shorter roles. He's even had it in a couple of 2-inning outings, but in this outing, it was just not great for him. They needed some bulk work from him. He got 2 2/3 innings under his belt in this one, but he walked 3. He gave up 3 hits and 3 runs, only struck out 1 in his 2 2/3 innings of work. And it was just not a great outing for him. Jose Leclerc was able to come in, and he has also been absolutely on one as of late in July and August. He has been so much better since he has gotten fully healthy and looks back to his old form. Leclerc worked 2 1/3 innings, only allowed 1 walk and 1 hit, and struck out 3, was just absolutely dominating, and got the Rangers some shutout innings that they desperately needed to keep them in this one. But Matt Moore allowed a run in the end. Jonathan Hernandez allowed a couple of runs in the end. I don't know why he was pitching in the 9th inning in this one in the game when the Rangers were losing, but he gave up a pair of runs, and the Rangers lost 6-2 in this one. Not a whole lot of offense going for the Rangers. 9 hits, but they weren't able to do any work with runners in scoring position. Just 1 for 6 and left 7 runners on base. No extra base hits for them in this one. They've really been drying up in that extra base hit well as of late. And when they're not getting extra base hits, not getting doubles or home runs, they have not been winning games. This is a team that has a decent offense, but has been falling off as of late. The first half was solid. They had their moments. Each of these guys on the team, each of these regular starters had their moments where they've been absolutely red hot. Well, except for really Brad Miller. But still, Adolis, Nathaniel Lowe, Jonah Heim, Seager, Simeon, all those guys, even Tavares, have all had their fantastic moments. But very few of them have been able to come at the same time, which is why the Rangers have been scuffling and skidding. As soon as one guy gets hot, the other one cools down. As soon as that one cools down, somebody else gets hot, and there's just one or two hitters that are going at the same time. And usually they end up being pretty far apart in the lineup, which is not a great winning combination for the Rangers. But let's look at this Saturday game. The Rangers were losing in this one. They were down 3-0 after 2 innings, and it was looking like another assured loss to the Seattle Mariners because Dane Dunning got blown up in this one. 4 1/3 innings for him, 3 hits, 3 earned runs, or 5 hits, excuse me, 3 walks, 3 runs, all those were earned, but he did strike out 5. Brett Martin came in to finish off that 5th inning. He got a couple of innings of work from Brock Burke, and Matt Moore got a shutout inning, and so did Jonathan Hernandez. But it was just a very, very close one for the Rangers. I don't know if Jonathan Hernandez didn't pitch in that Friday game, he would have been available for the 9th inning of the Sunday game, but it didn't matter because the Rangers pen was able to do work on Sunday. But the Rangers were down. And in comes Jeff, the rally pigeon. He was on the field, just kind of hip hopping around. He was on the field during the induction ceremony into the Rangers Hall of Fame for Ian Kinsler and John Blake, the PR guru who has been there for, I think, 43 years. But Ian Kinsler buried the hatchet with this Rangers squad, had a really, really messy breakup with this squad. In case you don't remember, of him calling for the Rangers, hoping that they went 0-162 in his first year in Detroit, where Detroit was absolutely amazing. And that was the 2014 season when everybody got hurt and everything went wrong. And it was just absolutely awful. And I thought, well, it's not 162, but this was pretty dang terrible. But people honestly are tripping over themselves to yell about Ian Kinsler pop-ups, blah, 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 blah. Kind of forget how great a player he was. I'll talk about him later on in the show and how fantastic he was for the Rangers and how completely unappreciated he was and how the Rangers could really use someone like him at this moment. But the Rangers, that 4th inning, they had their 4-run rally, were able to come back and take the lead in this one, score another in the 5th, 6th, and 8th to give them a 3-run cushion heading into that 9th inning to get the save for Jonathan Hernandez. But this was a big, big rally by the Rangers. I'm not sure that the pigeon was exactly what started it, but they needed something. Like they needed a rally monkey, snake, dragon, earthworm. I don't know. They needed something to get the monkey off of their back with this against this Mariners team that has just had their number from day one of this season. Coming up, we're going to look a little bit more how they got that rally going, who is a key member of it, and which Rangers have been carrying this club as of late, as well as the big, big Sunday win as well. But first, this episode is brought to you by our friends at LinkedIn. As you gear up for fall, you need the right people on your team to help your small business fire on all cylinders. LinkedIn Jobs is here to make it easier to find the people you want to talk to faster and for free. Create a free job post in minutes. LinkedIn Jobs reaches your network and beyond to the world's largest professional network of over 810 million people. There's simple tools like screening questions that make it easy to focus on the candidates with the right skills and experience so you can quickly prioritize who you'd like to interview and hire. It's why small businesses rate LinkedIn Jobs #1 in delivering quality hires versus leading competitors. LinkedIn Jobs help you provide candidates you want to talk to faster and for free. Do you know every single week, nearly 40 million job seekers visit LinkedIn? Post your job for free at linkedin.com/lockedonmlb. That's linkedin.com/lockedonmlb to post your job for free. Terms and conditions apply. Now, this Rangers team really, really needed that win. They'd been in a rough way. It had been a rough month of August, month of July, month of June. It's been a rough season for this Rangers squad that should be doing a lot better than they have been as of late. Jonah Heim got that scoring off with an RBI double. Charlie Culberson was able to come up big. He is just absolutely owned Marco Gonzalez, and that continues to be the case. He can only hit against Marco Gonzalez. Ezekiel Duran continued it to tie that game up with the at 3-3 with a single right up the middle to score. Nathaniel Lowe put Charlie Culberson on third, and then a nicely executed bunt by Bubba Thompson, who has been very good at executing bunts this season in AAA and also in the big leagues. He is incredibly fast, one of the fastest, if not the fastest player in all of Major League Baseball at that point. He nearly beat out the throw and was safe at first base, but the Rangers weren't able to do much else in this one. Corey Seager was able to get a home run to get the Rangers a 2-run lead, keep it from being a 1-run game. Then Eugenio Suarez comes back, hits his 19th home of the season. By the way, that Seager dinger, number 26 on the season, ties his career high which happened when he was a rookie back in 2016. Been a hot minute since then, but he has been absolutely fantastic for the Rangers. He's almost assuredly going to set a new career high. He's only had 20 home runs in a season. One other season before this one, besides that first rookie season, he had 22 home runs the next year in 145 games, and then 19 was the next most he had in 134 games back in 2019. He has been hitting the cover off of the baseball lately all season long. He has been the most consistent home run hitter by the Rangers. He's leading the team in home runs by 7 at this point from Idalis Garcia has 19, Seager has 26, and he is almost assuredly going to get to 30 home runs. The only other shortstops who've had 25 home runs for the Rangers in their career is just one guy. It's just Alex Rodriguez. That's it. Nobody else has played shortstop and hit 25 home runs for the Rangers. There was that one random Elvis Andrus season when he had 20 home runs and looked like he was going to figure out how to hit for power after being a slap punt hitter for the vast majority of his career. I think if he had a different manager besides Ron Washington, maybe he would have sold out for a little bit more power as opposed to being the ideal 1920s two-hole hitter that he was. But Corey Seager has been fantastic for the Rangers this season. He had a little bit of a slow start. He's had some ups and downs, and his offense hasn't been, the OPS hasn't been quite around the 900-ish mark that I thought it would be. It's at 812 on the season right now, but the home runs have been there, and they have been there in bunches. He has been a very consistent offensive player for the Texas Rangers and absolutely worth that contract that they gave him in a not so great season. But this was a big, big win for the Rangers, and they come back on Sunday, and I thought, okay, well, surely they're not going to do that twice. Surely that was the one win. I just didn't want to get swept by the Mariners. Like, that is all I was really asking for the Rangers in this one. But the Rangers were able to pull out another win in this Sunday game. You think Martin Perez on the hill, they got a chance, but this is a really frustrating game because the Mariners didn't hit all that well. The Mariners only had 4 hits in this one, but they had 6 walks. This was a really big walk game by Martin Perez, who has been mostly about league average in terms of his walk rate, but this was just out of control for him. He had 7 strikeouts in his 6 innings of work, but walked 5. He allowed 3 runs, but only one of those was earned because there was what should have been a double error on a play that gave the Rangers lead up in that 6th inning, the final inning of work. It was a bad decision by Corey Seager at shortstop. He should have thrown the ball with 2 outs. He should have thrown the ball to second base to get the runner out there. He didn't. It would have been a little bit of a close play looking at it on replay, but it was just a routine double, like 2-hopper to him. And he made a bad throw to first base. Nathaniel Lowe, it hit off his glove and went out of there. And Nathaniel Lowe has been a really, really bad offensive or defensive first baseman. And it's been really, really frustrating to watch. And moments like that specifically, just incredibly frustrating. Because the Rangers had that 1-run lead. They had their ace on the hill, and they had, well, not that many options in the bullpen. They needed to keep that lead because there were not a whole lot of options left. They ended up going with Josh Boers and Jose Leclerc, both of whom who had worked decent workloads this weekend, but those 2 guys came up absolutely huge for the Rangers in this one. Josh Boers, 2 innings of work, no hits, no runs, 1 walk, and 5 strikeouts. 5 strikeouts. He has been exceptional for the Rangers this season since he has come back up. When he first started his season this year at the big leagues, it was a rough way he started it. His first outing was at Toronto, where he allowed 3 runs and a homer in his 1 inning of work, then had another game where he allowed multiple runs. He allowed 3 runs again in Houston on May 19th, and that's what ended up getting him sent down. He had a 10.80 ERA at that point. And right now he has got a 4.91 ERA. He has not allowed a single run or earned run in his 7 appearances, whatever, since, let's see, June 7th was when he came back up, had a shutout, and he had worked 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Yeah, exactly 7 outings since coming back up. And in that time, he has been excellent for the Rangers. A 0 ERA, 10 innings of work, 3 walks, 7 hits, 14 strikeouts. He has been incredibly effective. He has had the strikeout stuff. It has been a will they, won't they. Is this guy actually a major leaguer? Trying to figure out for the last couple of seasons. He is 28 years old, and he does have strikeout stuff. And the Rangers have been sorely lacking that in their bullpen. Sport has been one of the few guys who has been striking out striking out opposing batters at a decent rate. And so I think he might have earned himself a place in the Rangers pen. Speaking of Rangers relievers, Joe Barlow is on a rehab assignment in Frisco. Saw him last night. Looked pretty solid. A very, very quick one inning of work. Got a strikeout on the slider, a couple of swings and misses on that slider, and some weak contact, just mowing through those AA hitters, and looked really, really solid. What I didn't see was Fernando Tatis Jr., who I'd been meaning to go see all week, and then the 80-game suspension came down for his PEDs. A really, really frustrating thing for those San Diego Padres fans. I know they were looking forward to getting him back. Baseball was looking forward to getting him back because he's just a lot of fun and one of the best players in the game. But he decided to take PEDs for ringworm or whatever. And so, unfortunately, those Frisco fans, all those tickets they were trying to sell to go see Fernando Tatis Jr., and he looked like he was ready after his 2 games of work. And then he took his scheduled day off of rest against Jack Leiter on Thursday. And then the next day is when the suspension came down. It was just really, really frustrating for the people who wanted to go see him, myself included. I really only had myself to blame. I could have gone and seen him on Wednesday or maybe late on Tuesday, but still frustrating not to see him. But doesn't matter. Really frustrating day in Frisco for me going out to see Antoine Kelly. But we're going to get into something who was not frustrating. Ian Kinsler, who was very much not frustrating for Rangers fans while he was here in a Rangers uniform, because he is one of the best homegrown talents the Rangers have ever produced in their entire franchise history. We're going to talk about his amazing career and why the Rangers could use someone just like him coming up. But first, this episode is brought to you by BetOnline. BetOnline.net is the fastest and easiest way to check in on all of your betting needs. Find your favorite sports and events at the #1 online source for odds, lines, and games. Find reviews and news of every single league, including Major League Baseball, NFL, NBA, NHL, combat sports, esports, and even golf. BetOnline continues to be the top online resource for all of your sports wagering information. From live in-game betting, scores, and podcasts, they have got you covered. If you want to bet on the Rangers closing out the season with a much better record than they have, you can go make some bets on some of their games there. If you want to bet on Corey Seager, I think I don't know if they still have the over-unders, but if you bet early on in the season about him and his over-under, I'm pretty sure he's reached it. I think they had it at 25.5. At the beginning of the season, and I thought he's definitely going to push past that. I don't think Marcus Semien is going to push past his 28 or 29.5 over under on his home run for the season. But hey, anything can happen in this last month and a half of baseball. So go ahead to BetOnline today, or use your mobile device to learn more about the trend and action happening today. BetOnline, it's where the game starts. Now, Ian Kinsler is a Rangers Hall of Famer. He is one of the best players that the Rangers have ever drafted, and he is chronically, critically, horrendously underrated, especially compared to some of the other guys like Michael Young, like, really just Michael Young. There's not a whole lot of people on those Ranger squads from 2010 to 2013, some of the best Rangers clubs in history that aren't appreciated as much as they should. But Ian Kinsler is always number one. This guy was absolutely fantastic for the Rangers. They drafted him in the 17th round out of Mizzou. He started his college career at junior college in Arizona. Then he went to Arizona State, where he was playing shortstop. He ended up getting benched for some other short, scrappy white guy, middle infielder who's got a lot of grit, named Dustin Pedroia, and he ended up transferring to Mizzou, where the Rangers would draft him in the 17th round of the 2003 MLB draft. And fun fact, not a single player in that entire draft has a higher baseball reference for their career than Ian Kinsler. Not a single freaking one. Nobody in the first round, nobody in the second round, nobody anywhere else. The 17th round pick is the guy who had the best overall wins above replacement, according to Baseball Reference, for his entire career. That draft included guys like Delvin Young, who went number 1 overall, had like a 3 WAR. Ricky Weeks, who went number 2 overall. Rangers pick in the first round, John Danks, Aaron Hill, David Murphy, Adam Jones, Nick Markakis, who played forever. So did Ian Kinsler. He also played forever. His former Arizona State teammate, Andre Ethier, Jonathan Papelbon, Michael Bourne, Matt Kemp. This guy had a higher career WAR than an MVP. And these other guys who have had fantastic careers. Ian Kinsler was freaking better. He had a 54.1 career WAR, according to Baseball Reference. Ended his career with 1,999 hits. He couldn't come back for one more. Just one more. It's a little frustrating. 257 home runs for him, career batting average of 269, which I think is pretty darn nice. An OPS for his career of 777 because he was a lucky freaking guy. A 4-time All-Star, a 2-time Gold Glove winner, and a 2018 World Series winner with the Boston Red Sox. I always forget about that. I kind of forget how long he played. He did have that one season with the Padres to finish out his career at age 37 in 2019. That was 3 years ago. That was just 3 years ago that Ian Kinsler was in this league. And he didn't win his first Gold Glove until he was 34, which I think is absolutely atrocious. The Gold Glove is the award in, I think, all of sports that gets the most corrupted and the most wrong. It's just let's pick a guy who's kind of okay with his glove, or maybe he's not, or he's just kind of good, and so we're just going to give it to him. I mean, Eric Hosmer is a horrendous defensive first baseman. He always has been. I think he has multiple Gold Gloves. But Ian Kinsler has always been a fantastic defensive second baseman. He was the firecracker in the clubhouse. He was just an absolute legend. Had a couple of 30 seasons, 30 home runs, and 30 stolen bases for the Rangers. One in 2009 when he got some MVP votes for the second time in his career. He got so many years where he had some MVP votes. I don't know how he didn't have more All-Star games under his belt because he was just fantastic for these Rangers clubs. And 2011 might have been his best year. 34 doubles, 4 triples, 32 homers, 30 stolen bases, just caught stealing 4 times, walked 89 times to just 71 strikeouts, and 832 OPS for him. He was absolutely fantastic. That year he had a Baseball Reference WAR of, where did we go? A 7 WAR season in 2011. Absolutely fantastic. Finished 11th in MVP voting. Somehow was not a freaking all-star that year. I have no idea how, but this guy was the engine that drove this Rangers lineup. He was the heart. He was the voice. He was the guy lighting a fire under everyone's butts. He was the guy who believed, even in 2009, they had a series that Michael Young told the story. They had a series against the Red Sox who were just coming off a world championship. And he's like, we're better than these guys. We're freaking better than these guys. Why are we losing to these guys? And the Rangers were not better than them. But every single time he stepped out there, he believed that he was better than every single person gave him credit for. And to his credit, he pretty much was. And he was very underrated. He, like, the term "I'm underrated," people don't appreciate me, like I got to prove people wrong, like that gets overused a whole lot. I mean, the University of Alabama football team, like 2 years ago, were like, nobody appreciated us. Nobody thought we were good. And it's like, you're a dynasty. Tom Brady says that all the time. Other people who have been fantastic in their career, like LeBron, all these other guys who are like all-time Hall of Famers. Same with Michael Jordan, did it all the time. Like, oh, nobody believed in me. Like, you got cut in high school. Like, and ever since then, everyone knew you were freaking amazing. Like, all these people who have been naturally talented, highly praised, all this stuff. Ian Kinsler was never that. Never. And this guy had a fantastic career. Borderline Hall of Famer. I don't know if he's going to get in there. I would vote for him because I love Ian Kinsler, but he is a Rangers Hall of Famer, and that is something they can never take away from him. He is 5th all-time Baseball Reference WAR for the Rangers career franchise. He's everything that you wanted your player to be. And if he stayed his entire career with the Rangers, he would have been number 1 in franchise career WAR. Pudge had a 50 career WAR with the Rangers. Rafael Palmeiro had a 44.6 career WAR with the Rangers. Ian Kinsler had a 54.1 career WAR for his entire Major League Baseball career. Now, the Rangers don't have any guys like this. Any of these firecrackers lighting a fire under your butt. I am chronically underrated. I have had to work and grind my teeth and just absolutely fall over myself to get to the major leagues. Now, I'm not saying that these guys don't care. That's just stupid. That's absolutely moronic to say that. You have to care. You have to care a lot. You have to be incredibly talented. Even if you're the most talented player on earth and you only care a little bit, it's not going to get you to the major leagues. You're going to flame out in Double-A. These guys all care a whole lot, but they're just a little bit different than him. It's not the vocal, angry, gritty guy. Just not that on this team. Ellis Garcia is kind of the closest to it, but he's not really. He's just more fiery. He's got that fieriness that Ian Kinsler has. I mean, Isaiah Kiner-Falefa is literally the exact definition of that. And while I'm not saying that I'd rather have him playing shortstop every day over Corey Seager, I most definitely would not. But still, you need one of those guys on this team. And, Corey Seager and Simeon, both of them are very quiet, very reserved kind of guys. They are not going to be in your face and jumping up and down, whatever. Cole Calhoun kind of had some of that, but, he's been ineffective and on the IL. And I'm not sure if he's going to play again this season because that injury seems to be a whole lot worse than it was letting on. Nathaniel Lowe, Louis Bears, like none of these guys really have that in your face kind of mentality that Ian Kinsler had. And in terms of prospects, there's not a whole lot of guys that are there either. I mean, I don't know these guys super, super well, but I think Josh Young might be the closest to it. Maybe Justin Foscue, maybe. But you kind of have to grit and look your teeth a little bit. You look at later on down in the MLB Pipeline's top 30 guys. There's a couple guys that might hit that mark. Thomas Sajaci kind of gives off a little bit of vibes of that. Cam Cauley definitely got some Dustin Pedroia comps because he was, gritty white kid who didn't really have an infield position, but was going to hit and was going to work his tail off and be like that. I think he's got a little bit there. Josh Young has got the work his tail off. He doesn't have the chronically critically underrated. He's a number 1 overall prospect. He was drafted in the top 10, but the Rangers need some kind of a guy like that, or just somebody to kind of step up and have that little bit of a spark on their team. There's just not a whole lot there. I mean, Josh Smith kind of has the person, like has the skill set for it, I should say. The work your butt off, the battle at bats, make it very, very difficult, be super annoying at the plate, and provide value in ways that people don't necessarily appreciate. But he's just kind of a laid back, happy-go-lucky kind of guy, and I'm not penalizing him for that. But there's just not a whole lot there. Maybe Eli White has got some of that in it, but there's not a whole lot of in-your-face kind of light a fire under your butts kind of player on this club. And I don't know where that comes from. I don't know if they actually necessarily need it, or maybe they just needed not historically bad luck in one-run games or something. I don't know what it is, but having that kind of a guy, having a guy like a Rougned Odor that will go out and, not be afraid to start a fight, get into an argument with somebody, get tossed from a game like that, that has some value. Some guys can rally around that. The Jeff Bannisters of the world, Chris Woodward doesn't really have that kind of an edge, and I've liked him for that. It's been, you don't really want a lot of those guys when you don't have a team entirely comprised of those guys, and being that feisty and annoying when you have a losing ball club, that's really, really tough to maintain. And is going to end up rubbing your teammates the wrong way. But when you are a winning ball club, usually it's helpful to have some of those guys in your club out. There's not as many of them in the league. I think these days, Rougned Odor is literally like the perfect example. IKF, even Trevino had a little bit of that, not quite the nasty feralness, hate the world kind of attitude that IKF most definitely has adopted, as we have seen in some of his interviews talking about his former team and how they treated him. And I don't think that's necessarily unwarranted. And is definitely the way that IKF looks at the world, and good on him, has made him a big leaguer and is going to continue to have him a big league career for another several years to come. But I don't know. So part of me kind of misses, not that I've ever been described as an old school kind of guy, but just a little bit of that fire every once in a while would be kind of nice. Keone Keller got into a little bit more fights than he should have, but having that kind of fire might be a little bit nice every once in a while. But that's enough about Ian Kinsler talk. As much as I love him, as much as he's underrated, he is now a Rangers Hall of Famer. He has buried the hatchet, and the curse of Ian Kinsler can maybe be lifted. I mean, I don't know why, but just the karma of trading your best homegrown player maybe ever for Prince Fielder, which was a good move at the time, and making a spot for Jurickson Profar, who, by the way, is having a really sensational season for the Padres and making himself into a nice big leaguer, which was always the hope when he was that number 1 overall prospect and had that promise, and was a deal that you would make every single time. It was exactly what the Rangers needed: a big bat in their lineup, make some room for Jurickson Profar, who has had a 3.3 WAR season at this point. He would be the the third most valuable player on the Rangers at this point. Yeah, that's right. Jurickson freaking Profar, who is hitting leadoff for a playoff team at this point. And I am very, very freaking happy for him. miss him. He will be a free agent at the end of the season. And with the Rangers hole in left field, honestly, if they went and got him, I would not be surprised. But I would be more surprised if San Diego let him leave because he's been so valuable. But just a quick look at what happened in Frisco last night when I was there. Antoine Kelly was on the hill. He is the primary return in the Matt Bush trade. And it was just a really, really bad outing for him. He only went 2 innings, threw about 60 pitches, walked 4, struck out 3. He showed that strikeout stuff. And the time that he got hit, he got absolutely barreled. But there was one really bad moment that just did not look good for him. Might have just been an off day, but there was a runner on third base. And he threw a wild pitch or maybe a pass ball, and he kind of just very casually walked to third base as the guy walked home to cover it as the catcher was trying to go get the ball and tag him out. And if he had hustled home, he probably could have beaten that runner home and gotten it out. And the catcher barked at him and he barked back, and he kind of just raised his shoulders like, I don't know, man, what's going on here? And just wasn't a super great look. The touched 96, the changeup looked pretty nice. I might end up thinking he's a reliever. This is just a really, really rough outing. And I was going to go up and look at some of the TrackMan numbers in the 3rd inning, but he didn't pitch in the 3rd inning. So I ended up just sitting there wishing that I could see Dustin Harris or Justin Foscue or Aaron Zavala, but none of those guys played in this game. Luis Angel Acuna looked pretty nice. Jonathan Ellis hit the absolute crap out of baseball. He's definitely a big leaguer, and I might end up looking really stupid for saying that he is just a super utility, not a starter kind of a guy. But very, very nice day in Frisco for Ornelas, decent day for Acuna, decent day for Blaine Crim, and a decent day for baseball. That's going to do it for today's edition of Locked On Rangers. And until next time, don't forget to enjoy baseball.